Hey there, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Schwigget Show. Now, today we are going to be going over 3 quick and simple ways to build circles in Arc. Now, there are a couple videos out there that show how to build circles, and even a perfect circle, and very impressive, but for me, that is a bit too time-consuming. So, with that being said, there is a disclosure that the methods I'll be showing you today, they do take some skill and some practice. Now, the better your skill, the better your circle. But nonetheless, these methods definitely work better on flat ground. You can apply them on top of platforms as well, but it does take just a little bit more time and practice. But nonetheless, I'll go ahead and give you a quick preview. Those are the 3 circles. There's some test circles, but there's the 3 circles we'll be building. And not quite perfect. Well, that one's actually very perfect, except for one spot, but we'll be going over that in detail. So for this first one, what we're going to do, just place one wooden fence foundation, then snap one to that at a 45-degree angle. Now for the third fence foundation we're going to set, we're just going to eyeball the horizontal positioning. Just try to cut that V in half. When you find the horizontal positioning you're happy with, for the vertical, we're just going to pull back on the left analog stick, and you'll see the green popping out just a little bit with a trim of brown above it, just like that. Now we'll place that there. Now for the fourth fence foundation, we are going to do the same thing. Eyeball it, find the center for the horizontal. For the vertical positioning, go ahead and pull back until the left corner pokes out and the right corner is still buried, just like that. I will pull back a little bit right there. That's what we want. And now for the last one, same thing, find your horizontal. For the vertical, you want the right corner to be poking out just barely, with the left corner still buried. Now let's double check it. Check our positioning with some pillars, see how perfect it is. That one, the last one I placed, is sticking out just a little bit. Could have fixed it, should have fixed it, but nonetheless it actually gives an opportunity that I can show you how to fix that later on. But nonetheless, let's go ahead and we'll just finish up our fence foundation circle. Okay, so I mentioned before that we can fix that. So that one's sticking out. That was the one that I said was sticking out too far. It's giving us problems. So we're going to delete the fence foundation, delete the pillar, and we're just going to flip the actual fence foundation using triangle for PlayStation. So you can see me flipping it back and forth. So we'll just flip that once, and that's going to bring the pillar in towards the center of the circle. And, I'll bet it. So I do want to show this to you guys. So I was saying when you flip the foundations, it'll bring the pillar closer to the center. In this scenario, it's going to make it worse. So definitely preview your fence foundations before you start your circle. But with that being said, to be honest with you, unless you're going to make a completely non-functioning circle or pillar or whatever you're making, you're going to need a doorway. So nonetheless, if you have a odd one out, there's your doorway. Alright, let's go ahead and take a look at that. And bam! Not too shabby for about 5 minutes, yeah? There are a few spots that are a little bit messed up, you know, and those are all from the fence foundation I pointed out at the very beginning. But nonetheless, let's go ahead and move on to our second method. This one we're going to begin placing a vertical metal pipe. This is going to be our guide. So after we place our guide, we'll, using wooden fence foundations, we'll go ahead and place that. If you can, avoid moving it horizontally because you want the guide to be cutting your fence foundation in half. Once you get that though, as long as you don't move it, for the vertical, you want the green to just barely be poking out from underneath the pipe. So just pull it back a little bit and you'll just see a sliver of green sticking out, and that's where you want it. You'll actually be able to see the pipe on the side that's facing you if you place it correctly. And once we place that, we'll go ahead and snap one at 45 degrees. Once we have those two, we're going to snap two more fence foundations, both at 45 degrees. And doing this is going to give us a center point. So once we have our center point, we'll use our guide. And we're going to take our next fence foundation, line it up so the guide is cutting the fence foundation in half, and it's also intersecting your center point. Once you get the horizontal positioning down, the vertical is going to be the same as in the first method. You just want a little bit of green poking out, just like that. Checking it, make sure everything's looking good. Now we'll put two more fence foundations, both at a 45. And this is going to give us our last two center points. So from here, go ahead and follow the same method. Find your horizontaling with your guide, and with the vertical, same as the first method. You want the far left corner poking out, and then the next one, you want the far right corner poking out. Alright, everything looks really great to me, so what we're going to do, we'll just delete the fence foundations we do not need, and then we will check our circle before we continue. And so far everything's looking really good, except for that very last one. That's only snapped at a 45, the original. So let's go ahead, and I'm going to see if I could flip it, and see if it'll look better. And yeah, that actually looks phenomenal. So let's go ahead and finish our circle, yeah? Alright, and there you have it, folks. And that one is actually phenomenal. That is like a perfect circle, except for those 5 right there. Those are the original fence foundations we placed. But nonetheless, I found my doorway, now didn't I? So this last method, it's a little bit different from the other ones, but I like it a lot. So nonetheless, what you want to do, look directly at the ground and place a vertical metal pipe. Without moving an inch, drop a bear trap, or a dino trap, I suppose is what it should be called. So drop that, and it's going to place the vertical pipe directly in the center of that bear trap. Now, once it opens up, if you look, one side has 9 teeth, that side that actually is you're facing when you drop it, and the other side only has 8 teeth. So this circle we're going to build is going to be a 20-sided circle, so we will be using the side with 9 teeth. Now, I like this method because there's kind of a fail-safe with centering the fence foundations, and for this one we will be using metal fence foundations because they're nice and straight. So nonetheless, you can use your guidepost to get your horizontal positioning, but also, as you could see, that hinge on this spot, you can also use that to find your horizontal positioning. Just make sure it's even on both and you're good to go. For the vertical, you want to put the fence foundation so it disappears and then pull it back just enough so you could see the flat edge of the fence foundation. And once you do that, you can see it's just barely touching the metal. And also, as you can see, the fence foundation almost the exact same um, length as the bear trap. So with that being done, let's go ahead and move our way around. Now for the horizontal positioning on these, you'll want the tip of the tooth to be touching that guide. And then also, if you look, that bracket that's holding the tooth is almost the exact same width as the metal fence foundation. So you can use that as a secondary guide to straighten it up. So once you get your horizontal positioning with your guide and you center it on the bracket, for the vertical, same thing with the very first one we placed, except we want to have it go into that bracket holding the tooth and just put it in so it starts to disappear and pull back a little bit and you'll see the flat edge. If you place it correctly, it will just barely be touching that bracket. Like, I mean, literally just barely be touching it. It won't be inside of it. Note the teeth on the bear trap, each one's a little bit different, so don't worry about trying to center the tip of the tooth with your guide, just as long as it's touching that guide on the left or the right or the center, you're good. And you can see it's just barely touching that bracket at the bottom. So let's go ahead and finish this up all the way around, and I will be back with you in a second. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and slow down the video here to show you with this next tooth, because it is a snaggle tooth. It's really crooked compared to the other teeth, and if you try to line the tip of that tooth up with your guide, it's going to be off. So one thing you can do is to line the tooth behind the guide up with the guide, and then of course use your bracket to center it. Also on this tooth, you'll see in this video that I'm overshooting the bracket when I place it, and that's because the bear trap is sitting on a hill, and that is a drawback of using the bear trap to make circles, is that it only really works best on flat ground, at least this half as long as it's on flat ground. But you can also use it on ceiling tiles or your foundations, and it works great because it'll make it totally flat. But nonetheless, this one took a little bit of trial and error, and again the horizontal placement may take a little trial and error. It's the only tooth that really gives you problems. But that looks okay. A little crooked. It's a little bit pulled back, but that actually is something that we can fix by flipping the fence foundation like I showed you in the other two methods. So let's go ahead and finish this up here. And of course, double check your work, make sure they're all positioned correctly, horizontally and vertically. If you feel confident in your circle, like I did in this video, you can go ahead and delete the bear trap and go ahead and delete the vertical post or the vertical pipe. And then just go ahead and you're just going to snap off of the foundations that you've already placed to complete your circle. It can be a little bit trying at times, but definitely doable. But like the other methods I showed you, I would definitely suggest checking your circle using pillars. And I think pillars are the best way to find out if it's actually round or not, or if they're misplaced. And that way, if you did misplace one, you still have the bear trap as a template that you can replace the foundation before you delete it. Because at this point, it'd be very difficult to place that bear trap back. So now I had the bright idea that maybe I should check my circle. And it turns out pretty good, actually. I mean, tried this method a few times. The only one you can see those two, and that was the snaggle tooth, and then the other one next to the snaggle tooth. Like I said, I knew it was already going to give me problems. I should have checked it before, but didn't. But nonetheless, let's go ahead and just finish this up, and we'll try to fix those with the flip trick method. Alright everybody, so we're just finishing up with placing our pillars, and I'm looking at it and I'm not particularly liking it. Again, you always need a door, so I could use that one side for a door, but I really don't like that left side. So I'm going to go ahead and try the flip trick method that I had shown you before. So I'll just delete the fence foundation and the pillar, and then I'll place one just regular, and then the second one right there I'm going to flip it, and it'll actually, in doing it this way, it's going to pull the pillar away from the center of the circle. So yeah, you'll have to just check it out when you're building, and if it's pushed in towards the center a little bit, you can use the flip trick method to pull it back out a little bit. And there you go. Definitely fixed it up. Looks a little bit better. There's a couple more I could go through and try to fix. That one right there, I could try to actually flip it, delete it on the edge, but nonetheless. For the tutorial, we'll just leave it at that. Now, I hope everybody enjoyed. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them below. And happy building. Alright, thank you for watching everybody, and I hope you have a wonderful day.